I am live. Welcome, everyone. I am here today with a really fabulous guest, a really wonderful woman I'm so honored to have met. And one of the reasons that's always like this for me in my business is that I get to meet such interesting people. And today I'm here with Ellen Violette, and she's inspiring. She absolutely is someone to know in the industry if you're an entrepreneur, and it doesn't matter at what level, because she really is very multifaceted in what she does. Um, she went to Berkeley University. She lives in San Diego, which is one of my favorite cities in the world. And she's a leading authority on ebooks, and as well as a top business coach who helps her clients build successful careers by integrating ebooks with online business savvy. She's a best-selling author, award-winning author, and she's also co-authored Sell More Ebooks and has been a past recipient of Be the Change. So she's a leading authority on ebooks, and there's so much more. I could just keep going, and now I just want to introduce you to my dear friend Ellen. And we've been having quite a time. All of those who are watching will understand the tech. We're talking about the tech gods and how many times they've interrupted our opportunity to get together. But we have pursued, and we are here today. And welcome, Ellen. Thank you
Oh,
for joining me.
I'm happy to be here. I'm glad we finally made
Right? It's been an adventure for sure.
it. Yes, it
So
has.
so can you just lightly tell us that you have a long, rich, abundant career in that you've done so many things. You know a lot of interesting people. How does someone from Berkeley become an ebook business coach?
Well, it's funny when I started, I was called the ebook coach, and I really was the very first one in the world. And I started. The reason was that I was writing my first book, and I was looking for a coach that understood digital, and there wasn't one. And so at that point was when I decided, wow, this is pretty much up my alley. I had been a magazine editor and I loved to write. I'd always had journals and poems and things like that. And so I thought this, I could do this better. And it really wasn't working out too well. My first adventure into book writing was like most people's. It was hard and it was boring and it was long and it was just a nightmare. And so, like I said, I knew that there had to be a better way, and so I created that, and that became my signature program.
Well,
Eventually, what happened though was that ebooks evolved. They started out as like the poor cousin of books, and then over time it evolved to we just write a book, and now we just format it in book and ebook.
well,
So
right. Look at
yeah,
what's happening today. They thought Amazon would be the end of books, and
right.
and it just keeps going. I'm amazed at how it's just growing so much. And when you say that you struggled, and what a bad experience it was, I have met many who have created businesses. The phoenix arises out of the ashes of a really bad experience. Some of them
Absolutely, or
run on.
something that something they needed that they couldn't find anywhere.
Right. What what was Well, they're probably back then, like just when you said that finding someone to do a digital book, it was like that was just such a weird concept for people, right? And that this last year has been such a great gift to all of us in the online space, because it's created more easy to, like, you really don't have to learn other than push the button. Easy concepts in tech, price is lower, more people are online. What do you see people struggle with most when writing their book? Is
Well, I mean, unfortunately, the problem is sometimes they don't think they're struggling until they start to look for the results that they're not getting. because really you need to become a marketer before you become a writer, an author. And there are just some fundamentals that people don't understand. And so they just go, oh, I have this idea, I'm going to write a book, and they start writing. And a few things can happen that way. One is you might get lucky and you happen to hit on something that works. But chances are that even if you do that, you may not be connecting with your audience when you go to sell it, because you really have to understand your audience. You have to understand who they are and what motivates them to buy, what motivates them to look at a page on Amazon and go, oh, I got to have that book. So a lot of what I do that's so important is helping authors position themselves, and hopefully before they write the book. Sometimes they come to me after, and then we have to go back and try to fix it and hope it works. But it's really understanding human behavior and what, like I said, what motivates your audience, but what keeps them up at night. And this is one of the things when I say to people, okay, well, what keeps your audience up at night? And they'll say something like, oh, they want more peace in their life. Nobody lays in bed at night thinking, really, I want more peace in my life. They may think, I need to get rid of my, this babysitter because she's not showing up on time and it's stressing me out, and therefore I'm not getting time with my husband and it's affecting our relationship. You know what I mean? It's got to be something concrete. And so you have to really put yourself in the shoes of your audience and go, I'm laying in bed at night, what's keeping me up? And being realistic and concrete, not this kind of like airy fairy, mumbo jumbo kind of stuff. So that's important. And then the other thing is, what do you enjoy? What's your passion? Because one of the things I've seen happen so many times in my workshops is that somebody gets stuck and they just weren't that excited, and they picked that topic because they thought it would make them money. And you really need a topic that you're passionate about and will make you money.
Yeah, I totally agree. What you said, you have to be a marketer first, and because I suck when I sit down to write the story, but as a marketer, I can write the client journey, and that makes me a better writer. And I didn't know I had that in me. So it's so true. And your ideal clients, you're right. What problem do you solve for them that they would be bothered to pick up that book in the airport or download it online?
Yeah, and it's no different. I mean, books, products, programs, services. I mean, this is just the foundational stuff of being a good business person.
I was going through a Facebook feed today on my business page, and I was marveling at all of the different ideal clients that people they're getting more descriptive.
Oh, uh-huh.
And you're right.
To.
Yeah, the airy fairy, the goddess that, as soon as they say actually the word goddess in a statement, it kind of it's like, okay, what's going to happen here? to be more connected to your feminine woman. The woman with that problem doesn't know that might be a solution.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Nobody lays in bed at night going, I want to be connected to my feminine goddess. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
That's right. Yeah. What do you see as the most fiery topics for books that are top sellers? Is there something?
Well, I mean, first of all, there are categories of books that you always want to tie to wealth, health, or relationships. Like in your marketing, even if you think it's not connected to one of those at all, it is in some way, and you have to get back to that somehow, one of those three things. As far as topics, there are places where you can go and look. I think Google has something, Google Trends, something like that, and you can look and see, look at what's popular. Obviously stuff connected to COVID right now is very popular. So it's just staying connected and seeing what people are interested in. And also you can go and look and see what's selling.
Right.
What else is selling?
Yeah. Well, it's so true. It's what that's really great information for people too, that become a really great researcher.
Mhm.
Yeah, find out the words. And I
Yeah,
feel
or
like I
hire
keep
somebody.
cutting you off. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
It's all right. Yeah, but and you don't have to do that. You can hire somebody to do that for you. There are people who are just really good researchers.
Right? Many people don't think about that when they're
Mhm.
writing the book. I have met ghost writers, and I've been surprised about the stories behind who they're writing for and why. So that's really interesting. So how do you like to help people? Who's your ideal client, Ellen?
My ideal clients are high achieving, mission driven speakers, coaches, consultants, founders. I love working with creative people because I'm a creative person. I'm a Grammy nominated songwriter, and I was in the music business for 20 years. Were you going
Oh,
to say
let's just
something?
stop there. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, because you're just going to keep going.
No,
I
I'm not.
find that amazing. So you're a songwriter, and it makes sense that you're also an author because you're songwriters are storytellers,
Right.
right? And tell me about the song that you won an award for.
It's called I Could Get Used to This by Grammy winning jazz artist Diane Scher. And I actually, this is such a funny story. You know how you like have a dream or a goal and you lay in bed at night and you visualize it? And I would visualize, I didn't really ever think it would happen, but I would visualize, being on stage with her and she'd be singing my song. And it actually happened. And it was so bizarre. She came down to the Del Mar Fairgrounds and did a concert there, and we got to hang out. And all of a sudden, we're in the audience. All of a sudden, she says, "Oh, Ellen's here. Come up on stage." And she goes, "Well, it's been a while, so I need you to read me the lyrics." I'm like, "Oh my God, I don't remember the lyrics," but my husband remembers everything. So I brought him with me, and the three of us are up there at her piano. We're feeding her the words, and she's singing it. It was so surreal. It's just,
What a fantastic moment for
yeah,
you.
yeah. And then afterwards, people come after me, "Oh my God, you're such a great writer, never quit. Oh, we're going to play this at our wedding and all that." It's
Wow.
amazing. I mean, music is amazing. We were watching The Voice last night. I mean, we're huge fans of American Idol and The Voice. And they had these two soul singers, and they sang "Here and Now." "Here and Now" was co-written by one of my dear friends, Terry Steele, and Terry and I have written songs together. And Terry sang it at our wedding.
Aw.
And I hadn't heard it in a while, and I was just like, oh God, I was just getting like chills and just, I'm getting teary eyed just thinking about it now. But music is just so powerful. It's just,
It's such a beautiful story. And that in itself is a story, Ellen. There's going to be a book of short stories of memories like that. That's a beautiful story. I'm I married a man I didn't know at the time, but he's a violin collector. And I always had a dream too that I would play violin. And I never saw how that would be because I come from not a violin playing family. But we we moved into the family home that was his for many years, and we'd been married for several months, and we were talking one night, and I said that would be a dream. We're a blended family. I said a dream that my girls would play violin, and he goes, "Oh, just a minute." So this is a house that carpenters built. There were two basements. He went down in a basement that I never went in, and he came back 20 minutes later, and he had two little violin cases. But he had quite a collection, and I learned to play violin at
wow.
36 on a 200-year-old French violin.
Oh
So,
my God, that's amazing.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
living the
Well,
dream.
a lot of my clients are also musicians. It's very interesting. There are a lot of coaches who are musical. They come from that world.
I would have to say you're right. I
Yeah.
hadn't made that connection right out like that,
Yeah.
but I have some friends and coaches, previous coaches too, that are very musical.
And I love working with creative people because they think, they're willing to think outside the box.
Mhm.
And that's what you have to do. A lot of times what people will do is they'll write a title and they get really attached to it and they haven't done the research. And so they don't know that maybe somebody else has already done it. The domain name isn't available. And then they're inflexible. They don't want to change because they got attached to that title. And when you're a creative person, you understand that when something doesn't work, there's something better. There's something more interesting. There's something more creative.
It's happening for a reason.
Right. And you just have to be willing to go with it. Now, I have books that I've written where they were written really fast and the titles were written really fast, like 21 Simple Strategies to Jumpstart Your Book Marketing Online. That book was written in 3 days. But I have another book. It was called How to Crush It in Business Without Crushing Your Spirit, How Entrepreneurs Can Overcome Depression and Find Success. And it took me like a year to get the title and the cover right. So every book is different.
Yeah. Wow. How many books have you written?
9.
It's pretty fabulous. Do you remember the name of your first book?
Yeah, because my first book was the disaster book. It was before I even had a business.
Okay.
And at the time, it was called The Moving Cure, How to Organize Your Move to Save Time, Money, and Your Sanity. And I actually originally thought that the title was going to be How to Organize Your Move to Save Time, Money, and Your Sanity. And a book publishing expert who is no longer with us, Dan Pointer, said, that is such a boring title. That's not a title. And so I had to keep working on it. So we came up with The Moving Cure. And I was in this publicity class. And the teacher said, oh, you should be the moving doctor. And they had me, put on a doctor coat and all that kind of business. And he wanted me to brand myself that way. And I was like, hell no. Like, does not sound fun to me to make a career of this at all. But at that point, I was kind of out of the music business. I'd been pushed out because I didn't have the backing anymore. My parents had passed away and I had to make a real living. And I had won a lot of awards, but I hadn't made much money in the music business. And if people think rejection is hard in this business, it's nothing compared to the music business.
I can only imagine what goes on there today. Just because of shows like Idol and The Voice, and that these amazing voices come out of nowhere. That it's really interesting.
It's also a lot harder today because the music business, they blew it because they didn't understand that digital was coming in, and they didn't make it so that it was not available for free. And then people started expecting it for free. So it became even harder. Now it's like for musicians and people to get cuts, it's more film and TV and music and that sort of thing. But it's very, very difficult. And if you look on records, usually you'll see 2, 3, 4, 5, even 6 writers on a song. And one of them is usually the artist, whether they actually wrote anything or not. So
Right.
it's and the thing is, it is what it is. But anyway, so that's what happened. But I had to get out, and we started buying, fixing, and selling houses, and because I had to sell my parents' house. That was the first thing after they passed away, and it had been damaged in the Northridge earthquake, and so we had to fix it before we could sell it. So we did that. And then, and by the way, if you think anything you've done is wasted, I went to graduate school in architecture, actually. And I went 2 years and decided I was never going to be an architect. Got out and I told my parents, I'm never going to use this. Well, guess what? I had to fix my parents' house. And so I knew what I was talking about. But so we did.
I'm sorry, but is there another book in there? I just had to interject. Is there? Because that sounds like a really good
another book. No, I don't know.
I don't want to do that.
It's just part of my story, But the point was that we made a bunch of money on my mom's house, and we didn't know how we were going to make a living because I hadn't really made a living in music, and the only money we made was in the studio that we built in my parents' house that I had to sell. So when we made all that money, we were very lucky because it was just the market was taking off. This was in the mid-90s. We moved down to San Diego the first time, and we started buying and fixing and selling houses because nothing else was working. I thought I could keep songwriting and be a big fish in a small pond, and that just wasn't working. My husband was a hypnotherapist. There was one on every corner. He couldn't get arrested really. And so we started doing that, and we kept using the same movers. And they kept saying, "Oh my God, as they saw me progress, oh God, you've gotten so good at this." So that was why I did it, because I didn't have a business yet. So I understand both starting a book that you're not passionate about and then not wanting to finish, because I did not want to finish. I was so bored with it by the end. But by that point, I knew I was going to be a book coach. So I had to finish. I couldn't not finish my book. So that's how that happened.
The greater the adversity, the greater the gift on the other side. When you're swimming in it, it's your pain point. But coming through the pain like you did it's like, oh.
Yeah, but my second book, this is actually my second book. Right now it's called Real Easy Ebooks Workbook, a step-by-step guide to take your ebook from idea to bestseller. But this book, I did not write myself. This book, I actually hired a coach to teach me how to coach once I learned that the money's not in the book, but in the coaching, what's in the book. So I said, oh crap. So I better see if I like coaching. So I got a coach to teach me how to coach, and he had a book on how to write an ebook. And so because I just gone through the process, I said to him, I can make this better. Do you want to do this with me? And he said, no, you can just take it and do whatever you want. So
Wow.
I wasn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth. And so I took it and I made it better, and I made it my own. And that really became, that was really like the foundational book for my signature course.
And your signature course, would you talk about that?
Yeah, in those days it was called, what was it called? The 3-day ebook cash workshop. Again, we've rebranded because it's now just books. It then became Write Your Bestseller in 7 Days Boot Camp, and now we're rebranding again. So because I've been doing product launches in this boot camp since 2004, I've done it 32 times. But we are now going to make it so that people can get in at any time, because doing it that way with product launches, you could only get in when it was available. So now it will be available all the time. So we are in the process of finding a new name for it. But for now, I'm calling it Publishing for Profit. And I don't know whether that'll be the final name or not. But
well, that's a great name. I love that name.
So, but can I just say one thing about that? So the thing is, what I found is people would come and take the training, but they wouldn't take the upsell to the publishing. But what happens is people write the book, and then they go, well, now I got to get this published. Oh, I have to find an editor. Oh, I have to find a formatter. Oh, I have to do a book cover. And they get all these different people. And sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't. And one of the places they don't work out is editing. I mean, there are a lot of people who call themselves editors who are bad editors. As I think I said earlier, I used to be an editor, a copy editor for magazines. So I know good editing versus not good editing. And so when you asked me who my ideal client was, and I said high achieving, mission driven people, it's because I want people who are busy. I want people who are running their business and sharing their genius and don't want to mess around with all the stuff that we can do, and do it right the first time and get it done quickly, and have them be ecstatic rather than struggle through trying to do this all and pull it all together, and and have it be a crapshoot.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's what I've seen in the coaching industry too, is that you hire a coach, and then someone else comes in to help you with your social media or this, all these different parts. Mm-hmm. And then that's where the soup all gets mixed up and the conflicts start. And I can see the same exactly as you're saying it.
Yeah, although I have one client right now who does have a social media manager, and all three of us are in on our calls, and it's been working out really nicely because I tell them the strategy and then they go implement it.
Well, that's the difference, is the communication is there. Yeah. But if you have all of these different, I think of it, and that's how it felt for me when I first started. I said, it's like a long hallway, and I got to go in this door. And when I come out, I got to remember which is the next door that I'm supposed to go in, because it's like exhausting. And that's where many get caught. So that's the benefit of people working with you, is that you've got everything pulled together. So do you want to share
Absolutely.
more about how that looks?
Yeah, well, the one thing that I want to say, first of all, is, a lot of times people will say, like they're afraid to write a book. They want to put it off, like they'll write a book someday. And I just want to tell you that um, around 2000, I got very sick and I dropped 30 pounds in a month. I was already going to a holistic MD, but my whole immune system collapsed and I was dying. And they didn't know what was wrong with me, and they certainly didn't know how to help me. And my husband got online and he found this doctor, Dr. Sherry Rogers, and she described my symptoms to a T. And I was suffering from environmental illness, which just meant I'd been exposed to too much toxicity from a million different things. And you can only put so much toxicity in, and then the last brick, you just collapse. And so I wanted to work with her, but she was no longer seeing patients. And luckily, she had written books. And one of the books that she wrote was called Detox or Die, and she saved my life.
Wow.
And so if you think books are not powerful, remember that story. And on top of that, I was like so many people, thought, well, someday I'll write a book. And then there I was like 48 years old, and I was facing death. And if that isn't a wake-up call, I don't know what is. And so it was like, crap, I got to write a book. So that was really the beginning of me moving towards that journey. And as far as how it works is that once you understand the power of a book, and I got to tell you, like I was once interviewed by J. Conrad Levinson, and he had said, people had asked him how much he made from his book, and he said 36,000 from the book and 960,000 from all the other opportunities. And that's really why my company is Books Open Doors, because that's what I see for my clients over and over and over, is all the things that happen after they write the book. But what people think is, oh, well, I'm going to do this first, or I'm going to create a program first, or I'm going to do something else, or whatever. But the thing is, when you understand how to do a book, you're really creating the structure for your entire business. Because the way I teach people to do it, we said earlier, right, it's always the same. It's always, what are you passionate about? What's your motivation? What's your why? What are your skills? Who's your ideal clients, and what keeps them up at night? Once you know that, and you create the outline for your book, creating your outline is very important. A lot of times, oh, I have it in my head. And I was just talking to a colleague of mine recently, and he was saying, oh, I did it that way. I tried to do it that way. It didn't work. I said, I know it doesn't work, but why did you think that that would work? And he said, oh, because I had it in my head that it was going to be, this was the first part, this was the second part, this was the third part. But the more detailed you can get in your outline, the easier it is to write. If you can do chapter by chapter, and then point by point, and even subpoints by subpoints, the more involved that is, the less thinking and the less work and the less chance you're going to get off topic. And so, and then the other thing is that once you have this for your book, you also have it as the basis for your signature program, if you want, if you're writing it for that purpose. So, and then, you can get an infinite amount practically of content from the book and the program as well. So one book can go a very long way.
Exactly. I love everything that you shared, and thank you, Ellen, so much for your vulnerable story and your share. And often that's what it takes for people to do that next step, is either being in a lot of pain or facing their own mortality, and the things that we want to complete before we leave this physical body. So I'm so glad that yours is in this package that is you and how you do your books. I'm so glad that I've met you. So would you talk about your books open doors? That's so we were just talking about your program,
Right.
and books open doors is that your podcast too? Because you also have a
Yeah, my
podcast.
podcast is Books Open Doors. My site is Books Open Doors. And well, can I give a couple of examples?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So I had one client who wanted to get on stages and he just wasn't getting any invitations. We wrote his book together. Well, he wrote the book. I mean, I coached him through it. And his book was actually started out as a PLR, one of those where somebody else had said, oh, you can just go ahead and use this kind of deal. And I encouraged him to make it his own. And he said it was a lot more work, but he was really glad that he did that because then he felt like it really was his own. And within 2 months, he was on his first stage.
Wow.
So, yeah, so that's one example. Another example is I had a client who had actually written a book that was quite well known, but he'd written it with several other people and he had that desire for his own, but he did write it with one other person who he felt was a better writer than he was. And that sold so many books that as one of my mentors said, I said, I don't know how to explain this because I don't have the exact numbers. And he said, well, just say he had to go into witness protection because he sold so many books that, he had to go into hiding. But anyway, he sold a lot of books, this guy.
And what was the topic?
Well, the book is called Niche Down.
Oh, okay.
Niche Down. So that's the topic. And after that, he ended up creating a podcast that is very popular. It's been one of the top business podcasts. And then he was on stage speaking. He got invited to speak, and he was on stage where one of the speakers was President Obama. So that was pretty cool. And then after that, I saw that President Obama was following me on Twitter because I'm in the front of the book. So I was like, that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So you just, that's the whole thing is it's all about getting your book out there, getting your name out there, being visible. It gives you just more credibility and it does open doors. Somebody told me a story where the psychologist who was very good at what she did was trying to get on TV and she couldn't because she didn't have a book. I'm working with a client of mine right now who actually is my back office partner when we would do bestseller launches. And he, came to me and said, we've been talking about doing this for him for like a year, but all of a sudden he came to me and said, oh, I have this opportunity to get on TV. I need the book, right?
Motivation.
So now we're getting the book done. But again, I always feel like it's always the perfect timing because had we done it before, it wouldn't have been the right book anyway, because he changed a whole lot in that year too. So
I think that's a really important thing that you just said. The timing. The timing. I just had a conversation to a client that couldn't see the direction of her programs, and then so she hasn't really been doing the work. And now that this other kind of catastrophic situation has happened, now she can see how it's the right time. Mm-hmm. And me watching her go through this is like now is a better time because she's really into doing it, motivated to do it.
But I could have just as easily said, well, I don't have a topic, so I'm not going to write my first book. But my first book taught me how to do it, right? That got me to my second book, that then got me to my third book, which was actually written by me. And so, it's all good.
All good. I'm working on my first one, and it's interesting the obstacles that come up, and so I'm looking forward to birthing that first one because I just know that it's going to be like the dam bursting and the floodgates will be open. So thank you so much for everything that you shared today, Ellen. I've posted the Books Open Door podcast in the links here, although we're live streaming to 3 different platforms. I'd like to say hi to everyone who's here with us live and those watching on the replay. The links, if you're not seeing them right here, Ellen and I will be sure to come back and put all the links in the live stream, because I've also put booksopendoors.com, and that's your website with.
That is, and we're having an issue right now with that pop-up. So just email me, Ellen at Books Open Doors, if you go there and you can't get it.
So, okay. And so we'll do that. And are there any other links that you would like to share with people? Because you have a little bit of something there.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, I have a Facebook group, which I would love for people to join if they're interested in learning more. And uh, we're always doing, networking and marketing tips and tech tips and just all kinds of good stuff. And that's facebook.com/groups/Books Open Doors.
Okay, and that we'll make sure that that link gets put into the chats below the interview. We're on Facebook and LinkedIn, and we'll just make sure that all of that information is covered there. And if you have any questions, if anyone watching has any questions, just type your question in, and Ellen and I will make sure that you get your answer. So any last thoughts that you'd like to say to people watching that are meeting someone like you, Ellen?
Yeah, I would just like to say that the process is not hard when you know what you're doing. The hardest part is the mindset. I mean, I had one mentor who said it took him 10 years to write his book, and it was 90% done after, not a few months or a year, but he didn't see himself as an author, and therefore he couldn't bring himself to finish it. So I would just say, it's the unknown, because it's going to open doors and it's going to change what you can do and who you are. And so get ready.
That's wonderful. My husband on our first date said to me that I see you as someone who writes books, and I laughed. And so 25 years later, I said to him one day, I've joined a book writing group, and he goes, see, because he's the oracle, right?
Yeah, right. Aren't they all like that?
But truly though, I wouldn't be able to even talk about it, because other than his encouraging, and it's like, I don't want to put something out there that's just going to collect dust on someone's shelf. It's got to be of value. And now I see the value. And people like yourself, Ellen, are out there educating the masses. And, you're a trailblazer, you're visionary, and you're a leader in that you're doing it. And
Thank you.
Jim Quick, the brain guy, he says, readers are leaders. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Well, I love what you just said. You didn't see the value, and now you see the value. That's what I was talking about, mindset. You have to see the value of what you have to offer the world.
Yeah, we're often just swimming in it. And so thank you so much. We'll make sure that everyone that reaches out has their questions answered. And thank you so much for being my new friend and for hanging in there with and getting online here with all of this tech stuff.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, we'll chat real soon. Thanks, Ellen.
Okay, bye-bye.